Hey everyone, what's up? I've got my coffee in my banged up Yeti. I am here in my Friday overalls. And I am going to use this time to synthesize a lot of the themes that come up in this work throughout the week. Last week, I started this What's Up River kind of update in order to just share a little bit of the work that's been happening at UpRiver. We have this really unique position in that I get to go into schools across several states at this point, schools with high incidence multilingual learners, low incidence multilingual learners, and everywhere in between. Schools that are new to the work, schools that are very familiar with the work, and are digging in really kind of granular ways. Um, and it's created this beautiful opportunity for cross-pollination that I think needs to be shared. It reminds me a little bit of the days when I was an instructional coach, and I felt so privileged to be able to glimpse all of these incredible classrooms. While my job was to provide feedback and focus on growth and essentially change for educators, I had to acknowledge, and it was important to acknowledge all of the great stuff that was already happening, right? So sometimes coaching gets a bad rap because we think we're just pushing to change people and change their practices. But when we recognize how much awesomeness exists in classrooms that might be next door to another teacher who never even gets to know that awesome, never gets to see that awesome. I saw myself as this little kind of bee, honeybee, right? And I just went from flower to flower to flower, from classroom to classroom to classroom to essentially cross pollinate, like bring the great stuff from one to the other and just make that known in that other classroom. Um, I didn't so much hold all of the answers or ideas as share the ones that I got to see and recognize, and that felt really good. It just feels really promising for the field. And in so many ways, this is the work now on this kind of school to school, district to district scale. Um, so here we go, right? So this, we're gonna kind of pollinate the flowers up and down the banks of the river, as it were. Um, but what I'd like to do is really recap the week in a way that weaves together a theme, because I see that a theme emerges each week through this work. And I think there are some kind of real life examples that we can ground that in. And this week for me, the theme that has bubbled up really is the art of education. Um, really that idea that we can take the skills that we have, right? That knowledge that we've gained and use that to make something, right? When we define art, we say, it's or an artist is someone who has skills, um, who can use those to conceptualize and make creative work. And to me, that describes education so beautifully and so brilliantly. If nothing more, aren't we building and creating and conceptualizing something new? Every day, our classroom dynamic, our uh, unique combination of experiences, of culture, of language, of personality is going to change. The way it merges with the content, the way we connect to it or don't. Every day, those dynamics are shifting, right? The ground beneath our feet is never the same from one day to the next, which to me screams that as teachers, we need to see ourselves as artists and we need to maintain our ability to be nimble, to make decisions that we know are best, to be trusted in essence. So, how do I see these things coming up? Well, this week, alone, right? I'm sure this is coming up in many other places and spaces and times. Um, One example is I had the opportunity on a professional learning day in a district not too far from me to pull together special ed and the English learner, EL teachers, as they call them, the multilingual learner English language development team. And we talked about really what is the gray area of language versus disability and assessment of such. And one of the things that I think was most moving about the opportunity to bring together these groups, we did it twice. We did it once with the middle and secondary and once with the elementary groups, was the the importance of getting everyone in the room together and the importance of sort of humanizing one another and one another's work. We started just by kind of speed dating style going around and sharing what one one misunderstood piece of their role was. What do people typically misunderstand about what I do? And that actually became sort of the inspiration behind a reel that I created the next morning of I'm an ESL teacher. Of course I speak all the languages, right? It was just kind of all the misconceptions that ESL teachers face. And while I feel very familiar with those, I don't often get to hear from special educators about what the misconceptions are that they face. And, educators in all roles do face them. And I think it's important to ask that question and to hear what we face because there's a lot of assumptions about the work we do. Okay, so how does this relate to art? Well, one of the conclusions we came to around making these really heavy and important and impactful decisions in the determination of a referral for disability assessment or a disability itself is how much we need to stay and exist in the gray area and how much we really need to understand that we hold a knowledge base that's worthy of input. When we get feelings about students, are we just getting a feeling or is that based on a well of information that we're carrying and recognizing too that what we may see as hunch work, and we don't want to rely on hunches, is actually us comparing our current student to a similar cohort of student, which can be a great practice. So trusting our skills and knowledge and moving from there is something that we can do to get more right, right? I don't know that there is any perfect, I know there isn't any perfect flow chart in terms of getting it exactly right for students. But if we can trust ourselves and trust our professional wealth of knowledge and move from there, I think we are going to be more likely to voice important pieces of our perspective. It's also going to help us come together and kind of co-create and work together. So that was just wonderful to really see teachers coming together, kind of the beginnings of these multidisciplinary teams. Another place this kind of idea of art came up um, for me is I'm actually rereading, so very intentionally, it's probably why it's on my mind. I'm reading The Art of Coaching by Elena Aguilar. And let me just grab it. I put an Instagram post up. Just make sure I can see my screen so you know that you're seeing it. I put an Instagram post up kind of with this as the book recommendation for this week, and it kind of gives some key points, who's it for, and a memorable quote. So take a look at that, or you can go back there to find this if you're looking to remember what book I mentioned. But one of the things that Aguilar says about art, because of course that's the title of the book, right? The Art of Coaching, is Coaching that is practiced as an art is coaching that has the power to transform, to completely change the substance, appearance, and even essence of one thing into another. This can be a challenging craft at first for those who are goal-oriented, driven by strategic plans, seeking benchmarks, and secure working in a sequential, linear progression. Goals and plans will be crucial for this journey as long as they are guides, not dictators. However, transforming individuals, institutions, student experience, and our society will require a new set of tools and some new ways of being. That's in the introduction, Art of Coaching, Elena Aguilar. What I love about what she says there is that we're really talking about new ways of being and taking those skills, right? Taking the knowledge, absolutely, but also using them as a springboard. She talks about, in the book, a lot of the human side of coaching that and that element to me can't be ignored. She says, a lot of us find comfort in these strategic plans and goal setting. And I would say individually, a lot of us find comfort in that, but institutionally, we're certainly operating as if that's the way and the kind of the hard and fast way. And I love this idea that those are guides, not dictators, because we all understand when it comes down to the moment, the interpersonal moment, what's best. But if we stay rigid, that's when we lose the art. So Aguilar really kind of brings us back to that. She's working from real methodologies around coaching and transformational practice here, but never forgetting that we have to trust our ability to take the skills, right, and move them into creation, to create something from the skills. We're not just regurgitating them. So keeping that in mind, I was working in a different district yesterday, in fact, with an ESL team. They had an early release professional learning day, and I came in and we started by working through a community development process called ripple effects mapping. And in that process, we really kind of listened to what success would look like for these educators, right? They have a lot of knowledge. They also have questions. They're a piece of a system. They don't necessarily have control over the whole system, but they have a great perspective. And so by pulling that together, we were able to really look and theme out what the big pieces that were coming up for them in their district, in their reality, in their day to day. And this is such great information, and it's a practice I love to do as well with administrators. We do this as a part of our site visits for our comprehensive program reviews, which is just a really great overview of level setting of what matters and what's important, right? And what really constructs the vision of success for a district in terms of multilingualism. It helps us start with the mindset work and the visioning work that can really make or break whether or not we achieve the outcomes we're looking to have. So anyway, one of the pieces that came up consistently in different places through this work, and this isn't the first ESL team to tell me this, was this request for flexibility, and a pushing back against the rigidity that comes up often when districts are trying to implement something new, right? Implement with fidelity. What is the curriculum writer require in terms of minutes? As if every classroom were the same, right? And I understand why, right? You do need some consistency in order to evaluate effectiveness, right? And to see, and I'm sure that, the curriculum writers of these products are protecting against, inadequate implementation. But they talked about rigidity around scheduling. They talked about rigidity around curricular implementation. They talked about rigidity around English language development curricula as well. So the first curricula area they were talking about was an ELA piece. They talked about that in terms of their own curricula, right? When bringing in something that was highly scripted and didn't allow them to look at the students in front of them and assess moment to moment what a need might be. What this really comes down to is the art, right? So we can't create something new. We can't build something new if we're just working from skills. If skills are required, right? Any good artist needs to train. Any good artist has those skills and applies them, right? But they apply them in the moment. Um, I have a little photo to share with all of you who are listening, who are watching rather on video. Let me see if I can get this. So, this is a photo of me last weekend. Well, here's our group. And here we are dancing for the New Hampshire Theater Awards. A piece from Newsies. I was a newsie in a community production that was up for an award or for several awards at this show, and we got to close the show with carrying the banner. So here we are. There I am, right in the middle. Um, and we're dancing, and every dancer on this stage has a skill set, a training, right? They understand, we're in parallel position, our arms are in fourth. We have, we understand kind of the mechanics of the core and the jump and all of that, right? Um, but if we just executed that um, kind of the same way every time, it wouldn't have had the same impact. So I'll share with you another photo. So here's a less dancey and more expressive moment. And there I am really working off of another dancer on the stage. I think the line was kind of the frustrated newsie, at two for a penny. If I take too many, Weasel just makes me eat 'em after. Meaning, the core of the show is that the newspaper boys were required to pre-buy all their newspapers, and if they didn't sell them, they lost that money, and they were poor to begin with. Um, so we had to dance this with that in mind, with the circumstances in mind, right? With the moment, with what's the lyric in the moment, right? In the moment of the jumps, we're excited, right? We're getting out there. In this moment, we're frustrated. So there's so much nuance, right? But to make it art, we gotta we gotta listen to the feel. We got to listen to the moment. And for the art of classroom teaching needs to provide teachers with the trust and the flexibility to do just that. When I think about English learner um, education, there are so many inflexibilities in our schools today. I think we're really trying deeply to codify what works. And as a result, we're losing art. Um, these ESL teachers they want to plan their own units. They want to say, I want to know what drives my students and I want to work from there, right? I can understand, give me some guidance on the language they need. Let me talk to my colleagues about the language that's coming up for them. Let me use my knowledge of second language acquisition in the English language and building off of their languages, to then inform what happens in my classroom, but give me the flexibility to be the artist that I am. And so that to me really underscored this need. Um, my daughter is a freshman in high school and she just started her third quarter. So second half of the year, she's taking guitar. This is so great, right? She plays bass. She loves bass. She really wants to learn guitar. And this morning, on the way to school, she said to me, my guitar teacher asked us to bring in a video of one of our favorite guitarists, like doing a guitar solo or whatever, and share it with the whole class. She was so excited for guitar. Now, what I love about this is number one, okay, guitar is it's highly engaging. It's an elective, right? She chose it. I fully acknowledge that. Um, but this teacher could easily have every reason to focus simply on the skills. We're gonna do chords, we're gonna get our finger placement right, we're gonna hold it properly. She could do that all day, every day, and she would be well intentioned, right? And certainly would have the standards per se in mind. But what she did was infuse the art of teaching here. And this is the human element, right? This is the creative element. This is the element that allows students to imprint on their education. This is an element that allows teachers to imprint their human self, right? And that builds those connections. So she did this artful move, right? Which was essentially, I imagine, to have the students uncover what skills they need to become that guitarist, right? So my daughter is showing a video of Thomas from Måneskin, and she couldn't be more proud to share the band and the guitarist that she loves. And I can only imagine that her drive to build those skills is going to be that much greater because we infused the flexibility, the choice, the art of it. And so I guess my question that I pose to all of you is, where is the art in your work? Where are you bringing yourself into this? Where are you reading? Who's in the room with you, right? I think back to the Newsies performance, the crowd really determined kind of what direction we went, where they hooted, where they hollered. The students determine a lot of that, right? And so when we are allowed and trusted to take our skills and bring them into creation, into creative mode, I think that's where we shine. That's where our students shine. Um, and I don't know that a teacher shining, an administrator shining, a school shining, a student shining can be mutually exclusive. I'm going to guess that the schools where students feel the best are the schools where they have the best academic outcomes. I'm also going to guess that those are the same schools that have higher retention rates and teacher satisfaction. Because when we trust one another and we allow our human elements to come through, then we bring out those skills, right? So that's a little recap of my week. I'd love to hear from you. Where is the art in your work? Reach out, share, let me know. And until then, I'll see you on the river. Have a good one.